Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. It's another edition of Ask the County. And joining us this morning is our good friend, Saginaw County Treasurer Tim Novak. So
Good
Tim,
morning.
Thanks for being here with us this morning.
Absolutely.
So today we're talking about something really interesting. So the Saginaw County Sheriff's Office has 7 different support divisions. And today we're talking about one of those, which is the Marine Patrol Team. So tell me a little about what that team actually does.
Yeah, so they kind of do all sorts of different activities, all clearly water related, right? So you're talking about like water rescues, evidence recovery, even do boat inspections, or like during like high traffic times, maybe water infractions. They'll be out on you'll see them out on the river, patrolling maybe during fireworks and things like that. They can help search for items in the water. Maybe it be a car gets pulled out, or they'll help pull up a car out, a body or a gun, or that's the evidence stuff. So a whole different myriad of different types of activities that they're involved in. And then they're also heavily trained in how to deal with families and the media as well. Once again, these are all volunteers that put in all this extra time to do all these types of activities. And we've seen it in the news lately too, where they've been used.
Yeah. So when it comes to having to rescue someone or recover evidence or, anything of their duties that they have to do, how long does that usually take them to do? So
they say that for them to get from when they get the call until they can mobilize and get to the scene is really only like 20 minutes.
Wow.
So shortly after, fire and police rescue get there, they can be on the scene. A lot of their equipment can be they can put their stuff on and get ready on their way there. So they're really on the scene, one of the first ones, especially if it's a type of thing where they're looking at a rescue type situation, right? Where time is of the essence. I mean, you can only be in frigid waters for a brief period of time, maybe an hour before, and then if it's darkness, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of elements that you have zero control over in water temperature and time. So.
Yeah, so tell us about some of the other divisions, because there's 7 of them, and we just talked about 1.
Yeah, so you're talking, they have a whole series, there's an aviation division.
What? Wow.
Yeah, so folks that'll lend the use of their airplanes for search and rescue, a civil process, handicap parking, law enforcement medical support, emergency response, a chaplain, a victim advocate. The Sheriff Posse or Mounted Division, I think, is the other kind of visual one that we've seen in the news, and of course the Marine Patrol and Dive Team.
So these are really niche divisions. So what do you have to have any kind of special training to be a part of one of those divisions? It seemed like you would. So
all these folks would have to have a sort of special training, probably the niche, right? So I mean, if you're going to be in the Mounted Division, you probably have your own horse, you have your own, you have the ability to trailer your horse to different places. If you're in the Marine Division, you'd have to have water types of, and then they do training like almost all year round in all different types of scenarios. And when they get to training, sometimes some of the folks are their first time there, and sometimes they're the veterans and they can kind of work with each other. But the trainings are really unique. You're talking, they had the one with the aviation partnered with the Mounted Division, and there was a teenage girl who was missing and an elderly a patient with dementia, and they, the scenario all the way down to the family members who portray scared and concerned, the types of clothes they were wearing, the time of day, and they really thoroughly go through the mock training as if it's real, live type situation. And then, they'll use the horses or the airplanes, whatever it is needed for that rescue. And once again, the 17,000 hours of volunteer that they put in a year to support the Sheriff Department and law enforcement is, you can't put a number on how important that is.
Yeah, and that's it just goes to show how dedicated these volunteers are and how important they are to our community. Because a lot of times when we think of just the Sheriff's Office, we just think of the Sheriff's Office. We don't think about all of the different elements that goes into, solving crimes, rescuing people. We don't usually think about that.
All the unique situations.
Yeah.
We had wild Mustangs loose out in the rural areas of our county, and they were aiding and, kind of capturing these wild Mustangs. I mean, you kind of go through the list. You couldn't come up with them on your own. They're so kind of unique when they do, but really helpful and necessary. You're going to talk about protect and serve, right? Isn't that what we talk about law enforcement? And this, falls under both of those categories.
It sure does. Well, Tim, we always thank you for coming in and informing us on everything we need to know.
Absolutely.
All right, so if you have any questions that you would like to ask the county, all you have to do is send us an email to WNEM@WNEM.com.